Hello, everybody. My name is Professor Benny Gruen, and I am an adjunct faculty member at Touro University Worldwide. I put the link here on the front page of the presentation. I am a professor in the Bachelor of Social Work program and the Bachelor's of Psychology program. So if you're interested in taking any of my online courses or any other online courses, definitely check out Touro University Worldwide. Okay, without further ado, let's jump in. So, who was Sigmund Freud? Sigmund Freud lived 1856 to 1939. He was born Sigismund Shlomo Freud, later shortened his name to Sigmund Freud. He was the founder of psychoanalysis, which is an idea. It's a modality of therapy. To look into that separately, we're not going to cover that too much here, but he is very famous for developing that. And he also created the psychosexual stages of development. That's how Freud explained development. And that's going to be the focus of the presentation. We're going to discuss his psychosexual stages. Now, before we jump into the psychosexual stages, I like to always discuss, and really whenever we talk about a topic in psychology, if you're familiar with some of the other videos, you'll know I always ask this question: why are we studying this particular topic? Why is it important for me in 2026 or whatever year you're holding to study Freud's ideas? And the answer is that Freud's ideas have a lot of relevance to us today. And I just wrote a couple of ideas here. There's probably more as well. You can look around, do some research, give it some thought. But Freud was the first one to notice or develop the idea that things under the surface are actually impacting us today. Something that happened to me when I was a child is still impacting me currently. And this is a very important idea. And Freud explained, if we want to fix problems that I'm having today, the way to do that might be to think back to the origin or the original time when I had this problem and work our way backwards and correct it from way back then. And then the problem may no longer exist. And besides that, Freud also transformed the whole field of psychology and therapy with developing his psychoanalysis and the way he understood why people behave in certain ways. So Freud's ideas continue to have a tremendous influence, and they continue to explain much of what we see today. So it is definitely worthwhile to study. Okay, this is not exactly the psychosexual stages, but it is a very important point from Freud's ideas. And I really like the mnemonic that I created for this one, so I threw it into this presentation. If you look at this picture here, it's Peter from Family Guy. If I'm not mistaken, this is the only episode of Family Guy that I ever watched. But in the episode, Peter is unsure whether he should listen to the devil, right? The devil is saying to do the bad thing, the immoral thing, or whatever it was in the episode, versus the good angel. I took the liberty to put the good angel dressed up like a superhero, where the superhero angel is always saying to Peter, do the right thing. So you have the devil, D in devil, saying, give to me, I want it now. The impulsive one. That's the devil, that's the I'd. And then you have the hero, the good angel, the superhero, the super ego, saying to do the moral thing. And Peter, he's the dumb guy in the middle. He's got the ego, right? We know a person has ego. Ego refers to the person themselves. The ego has to decide, has to balance between following the desires, the I, and the devil, or the superhero, the super ego. So just a quick hint here for I, ego, and super ego. Okay, now we'll move on to the stages of psychosexual development. There are 5 stages: oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital stages. Now, just a quick point here. According to Freud, a person's libido, or their sexual drive, actually drives a person's behaviors, meaning the person's behaviors are like motivated by the libido, the energy that comes from the specific sexual desires that they have during the different stages. And finally, Freud had said that if the child or individual did not resolve the conflict that was created in each of those stages, it could lead to issues later in life. Okay, that's one of his idea here in a nutshell. And now we're going to go through the 5 stages. So this is a very famous mnemonic. I don't think it's so powerful, but it is somewhat helpful. Is that they make a sentence using the first letter of each of the stages. So O for oral, A for anal, P for phallic, L for latency, and G for genitals. And these are 3 famous ones: orphan, Annie, pretty little girl. That was one that I was taught in school. I did a quick internet search. I found these 2 other ones: orangutans always play with little gorillas, or old aged people love grapes. I don't know. I find it a little hard to picture old aged people, holding up a cluster of grapes, but who knows? Anyway, these 3 sentences could help you remember the OAPLG. Now, my issue with that is very nice. I remember OA, PLG. And maybe I even remember that it's oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genitals. Could be I remember that stuff, but it's not really going to tell me enough. I want to be able to remember more. So therefore, I developed another mnemonic, and we're going to get a little bit graphic, and I apologize for that if it offends you, but I wasn't able to find a better mnemonic, so I'm just going to go with what I got. Okay, so here it is. And to picture this, you have to really think. I'm not sure if you, the viewer, are a religious person or not, but we're going to take a very typical American teenager, and we finally let's go with the heterosexual male, and he finally has a girlfriend, and they're getting together, and they want to start becoming intimate, becoming physical. So very often when they're younger, they'll start with just oral sex. So the first stage is oral, and gotta get a little graphic now. But by oral, the woman's O will go on the man's penis, which is 1. So from O to 1, from 0 to 1. So the oral stage, which is first, goes from 0 to 1. Then the couple might want to take it up a notch, but they don't want to have any children, so they won't do regular sex. Instead, they'll go from oral to anal sex. And for anal sex, the man's or the boy's 1 goes into the girl's place where number 2 comes out. So 1 plus 2 is 3. The anal stage goes and ends at age 3. So again, you have the oral stage, ends at age 1. The anal stage ends at age 3. Finally, they're taking it up another notch, and they're ready for actual intercourse, right? F-U-C-K, that actually kind of sounds like phallic, F-U-C-K, and the word sex actually sounds like the number 6. So this will tell you that this stage, the phallic stage, right, the third level, the third stage, is until the child is age 6. Finally, the couple gets married, and what happens then? They start having children. Life gets busy. They don't have time for much sex anymore. They're just busy, and they repress all their sexual energy, the whole drive. So that's why this stage is called latency, right? Because when they're a married couple, they just don't have time for that anymore. And latency lasts until puberty. Latency rhymes with puberty. Another little hint that you could add in is, we'll think about latex condoms. Maybe when they got married, they don't want to have any more children, so they pull out the latex. Okay, but that's the 4th stage, latency. Finally, when the children get older, they're past puberty, the children are older, they have more time on their hands, they could now release their sexual energy, and that's the final stage, the genital stage. So again, we got oral, the oral leads to anal, to actual F-U-C-K, the phallic, then they're too busy, so they repress, latency, and finally free again, the genital stage. And we're now going to go through each one of these just to discuss briefly what Freud said about the stages. Okay, so the first stage, oral, again, remember the woman's O is like going on the man's penis, the man's 1, from the age of 0 to 1. And this is the conflict that Freud said of a baby being weaned from the mother's breast. And if there's a fixation, if the child is not able to appropriately deal with that conflict, it could lead to different fixations with things about the child's mouth. It could lead to smoking, overeating, nail biting, or it could lead to issues of dependency. Because when a child is nursing from the mother, there's a certain dependency. If that issue wasn't taken care of appropriately, then the fixation, the issue later in life could be the child or the individual would have too much dependency on others. Okay, remember the next stage, and when the couple, they're progressing, they went from oral sex, now they went to anal sex, right? And remember that was the 1 going into the place where number 2 comes out, where poop comes out, and it lasts from age 1 until age 3, because 1 plus 2 equals 3. Now, this is the stage of toilet training, and Freud explained that based on the parents' approach to toilet training, that's how the child comes out of the conflict during this stage. If the parents are too lenient and let the child make a mess with his poop all over the place or her poop all over the place, that could lead the child to have a messy personality. And if the parent is too strict, that might lead the child to have a rigid and obsessive personality. Okay, there are some more terms on this slide. If you want to pause the video and take a look, you can. We're not going to go through them right now. The third stage, remember, now the couple that we're dealing with are ready to take it to the next level. They're ready to start F-U-C-K. They are ready to be in the phallic stage. Now, here's an interesting one, because like we said, the word sex and the number 6 sound the same, because this stage lasts until the child is 6. Now, a few interesting things happen during this stage, and it fits very well with our mnemonic. So there was oral sex, and there was anal sex, and now there's actual penis and vagina sex. So that's the first time that the vagina is involved. And if you know the slang for vagina, I'm not going to say the word again, but it's Pussy, right? So Oedipus actually sounds like the Pussy. So that can help you remember that the Oedipus complex occurs during this phallic stage. Now, what is the Oedipus complex? So it's based on a story from Greek mythology where Oedipus killed his father in order to marry his mother. So Freud was basically saying that at this point, a young boy wants to replace the father and marry the mother, that the young boy is in love with his mother, but the child is afraid that his father is going to punish him. So that's called castration anxiety, or he's afraid the father's going to cut off the son's penis because the son is trying to steal the mother from the dad. And girls during this stage notice that, hey, I have a vagina, I don't have a penis, and they might develop what's called penis envy. Okay, again, this is all during this stage because this is the first stage in our mnemonic where the boy and the girl from our heterosexual couple are actually having sex. Okay, finally, well, not finally, but the fourth stage, the latency stage. They are married, they have children, and they are not having sex because they're too busy. The sexual energy during this stage becomes dormant. This is typically like a school-age child from 6 to 12, right? Remember, latency rhymes with puberty because the stage goes from when the child is 6 till puberty. And the sexual energy is repressed. The child during this time focuses on making friends, focuses on the schoolwork. And this is a very important phase. And if a child is fixated or stuck, then the child might be immature and might be unable to actually form relationships or accomplish things as an adult. So it's a very important stage. Again, from our mnemonic, it's the time right after they get married, they already have children, and maybe you can add the other hint we threw in that they have enough children, so they want to use a latex condom. But again, that goes up till puberty. And then finally leads us to the last stage, the genital stage, where everything is good. The children are older, so now our heterosexual couple is now ready to be intimate again. They have more time. And as Freud said, if a person's able to successfully make it up to the genital stage, they're now basically home free. They completed all the previous conflicts, and the person should now be a well-balanced, warm, and caring individual. Okay, so this is all pretty good. I'm just going to run back quickly to our mnemonic. I just want to review that. So again, the 5 stages, we have oral, anal, phallic, latency, genital. We're going in order of how a typical secular, non-religious heterosexual sexual couple may commonly advance the relationship, where it starts with oral sex, right? The O goes on to the 1. And then they might move on to anal sex because they don't want any children. So they're not having any penis and vagina sex, just anal sex. And that's the 1 going into the place of poop, into the place of number 2, because this stage ends at age 3. Finally, they move it up another notch to actual intercourse, Fuck, which sounds like phallic. And this is until they're 6 because 6 sounds like sex. This is the genuine, real sex. So till the age of 6. Finally, in our metaphor here, they get married, they have children, and they want to either use a latex condom or just don't have time for sex. So that's latency, and this goes until a child reaches puberty, latency till puberty. Now, finally, after that, they're in the genital stage where they're less busy. They can release their sex drive until the end of their lives. Okay, I hope this is clear. I apologize if this was too detailed or too explicit for anybody, but I hope this helps you remember Freud's psychosexual stages and what each age is and what happens during each of these stages. All the best. See you in the next video. Take care.